Well, my. It is Saki update time. We are at the final stage. Stay tuned. Well, we are so glad you're back with us today. I'm George, and this is your Saki update. And this should be the final. We've got it sitting here. Remember, we did this on the 25th of October, and now it is the 11th of November. Oh, by the way, it's Veterans Day. So thank you to all of our veterans, but more importantly for me as a veteran, I want to say thank you to our American citizens. Sometimes we forget just how important you are in supporting veterans. So today I want to celebrate American citizens, and that is you. Okay, that's my message for today. Please, if you get an opportunity, subscribe. Of course, you can always get in touch with me. There it is. All right. Without any other delay, I'm gonna lay right into this. This is really amazing. I want you to notice a couple of things before we open this up. We're going to do a transfer. I'm going to actually taste it today. I have not done this yet. Promise, I have not done this yet. So this is going to be an eye-opener for all of us. You can see clearly where I've got a layer of the sediment here of the old rice, and it's not as much rice as it is like a porridge. And then of course there are some that are buoyant and that are floating on the top. And what this indicates to me is that this was more than likely unprepared rice. When we did the steaming, it was the rice that just wasn't adequately prepared, and it just became buoyant and it floats on the top. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. Now, this still has, you'll see here, positive pressure. There's the top, there's my water, and here's the other line. So that means normally if it was equalized pressure and everything had stopped, these two lines would be equal. There'd be an equal amount of water in both of those cylinders. But since there's more water here than there is over here, that means there's positive pressure still inside. I guess I could let it go, but I'm not going to. I'm going to continue on. Now, I've also got two other buckets laying right here, and you may hear them burp every now and then, but that is the same recipe in two 6.8 gallon buckets, and I'm preparing that for, guess what? Yep, you got it. We're going to drink this one. We're going to distill that one. So here's my not fair warning, but here's my tip for you. When you're doing this and it's converting and fermenting at the same time, a very, very strange thing takes place. It will almost convince you that nothing is happening. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you this on the video at the very end. But what happens is this layer becomes thick enough, heavy enough, and condensed enough that it captures all of the CO2 produced, and so therefore you have very little, if not no, pressure that releases through your airlock. Interesting. That's why I guess they have the instructions to stir it every day. When you stir it, it goes what we call badass crazy. And all of a sudden, all that CO2 escapes, and you have all kind of blowing off going on, and then it'll settle back down. It goes right back through the same process. The next day, yep, same thing will happen again, and the same thing happens in the buckets. So just be forewarned. So here's all I'm going to do now. I'm going to transfer it from this larger container into my smaller container, and at the same time, there it goes. At the same time, we're going to pull off a little bit, and we're going to taste it. So bear with me. Now I'm going to do this by using a siphon hose because you'll see that this is still a little cloudy. We'll discuss that. Oh, it's got such a rich aroma, odor to it. And I can really smell the alcohol, so I'm quite sure. And again, remember we talked about there's no way of testing it, so it's very difficult to know exactly what it is, but of course, we'll cover that later. We've got some ways we can at least get close. Now, I've already sanitized my container, and the inside of my hose. So what I want to do is I want to get the hose to the side here so I don't pick up any of that harsh sediment on the bottom. There it goes. And while that's running in there, there we go. I'm going to get me a cup. Now I'll get that cup at the very end. Just bear with, I'll be right back as this siphons out. Well, that's complete. And I've left quite a bit in here because the next process for this is to actually strain it, and that could be a 24-hour process to strain out all of that sediment and to get all of that out. So now the only thing I got left to do is I'm going to get me a little cup of this, and I did suck up some of that sediment unintentionally. That is a really, and it still has a sweet aroma as well to it. So here goes. Test. It's one of those, you know, you have to pat yourself on the back every once in a while. I really, really like that. I'm sure there's a bunch of different things we could do to this. Now, here are a couple of my options. One is, once I get all this strained out, of course I can use, maybe I can try some turbo clear to make that crystal clear. But that is a wonderful homemade sake that you and I made together. Now check this out. First of all, you can see that it is fermenting. I stirred it up this morning, but watch what happens. I'm going to open this up. And you see, I do have some suspended rice on the top. So obviously that, you can actually see it. If you watch it, you can actually see some activity. You see bubbles popping up. But watch what happens when I stir it. Look at that. You see all that CO2 that's just been released? And it just bubbles up. It was much, much more aggressive than that when I did it this morning. This is early afternoon. So that's the built-up fermentation and backup of that CO2 that I talked about that's on that layer. That's amazing. So that brings us to the end here, and I hope you found that interesting. It's a point that I did not realize earlier, but I have learned. So I wanted to share that with you. My sake's ready for the follow-on process, or just to leave it like that. It's best consumed chilled. And I got another project. I got all these PIDs I'm trying to get assembled, and I got a bunch of stuff going on. You know, yeah. Again, thank you, America. Happy Veterans Day, and of course, happy distilling.